Hey everybody, we are the Bad Pennies and we are back. I am Sho and this is my friend Alan. And we got a couple questions that we're going to circulate.
And as you see, we got a table.
Oh yeah, what do you think of the new decor, everybody?
Yeah, we got this incredible table and
upgrade.
So we're able to actually be a little closer to you, and hopefully, it always felt in the other podcast that we were just far away. It's like, I mean, it's cool to kind of lounge. It had a little bit of a kind of a TV feel to it, or a fireside chat, I guess, something like that. Yeah. But
so let us know how you feel about it.
Or a Mike Myers deal too. I mean,
Yeah. Well, we said we like Wayne's World. So.
Wayne's World, we definitely love Wayne's World. So, but we're here. We're a little bit closer, and hopefully a little more accessible to you. So, There we go. All right. So we got a subject. We got several subjects.
Yeah. So this is a conversation, and I think that there's a lot about manhood. There's all different kinds of aspects and dynamics to it. So just a couple things that I've dealt with in my last couple of weeks dealing with my men's ministry. Just some topics that I thought we should bring to the podcast.
And here we are.
All right. So question number 1. Pack wolf or lone wolf? Which one do you think?
Pack wolf.
Pack wolf. Why?
Pack wolf. It's actually more of a natural order for men. Men have lost, unfortunately, their connection to each other. And that's where this whole lone wolf deal, plus there's all of these movies that glorify being a lone wolf, doing it alone, winning alone, all of that kind of stuff. But in reality, and historically, men didn't become successful alone. They had and arguably we're going to leave the woman part of this out for a moment.
Right.
All right. We're just going to talk about
we're just
our relationship with other men. Right.
Yeah.
All right. So with that part set aside, just for now, we have always worked together to accomplish things that are greater than ourselves. From bringing down mastodons, we had to work together.
Back then.
Pack wolf. Protecting the village. Pack wolf.
Yeah.
Hunting, gathering. Pack wolf.
Yeah.
Being able to do those things together, we also had to create a number of ways of being, which is where that whole sort of code of conduct kind of came into being as well. Not just for our ability to negotiate a more cultured society as villages grew larger and became communities and eventually towns and cities, we had to codify our behavior in order to be able to exist with women and children at the same time. Otherwise, most of the time we spent out in the wild doing what we did as men and brought back the rewards and made sure that everyone was able to eat and be clothed and all of the things that were necessary in order to keep the village viable and stable. Okay? So doing it alone is the way to die in those days. In fact, if you broke... You're gonna love this one. If you broke the rules, they put you out.
Okay.
If they didn't kill you outright, or walk you in a one-way trip into the woods, they would just banish you, and that was almost a death sentence in itself.
Yeah.
Okay, because survival alone is extremely difficult. So yes, we have always been pack, and we're, like I said, modern times we have glorified the lone wolf, but it's a mistake. It's great. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I love action films And I love seeing the hero, whether it's a man or a woman, doing the lone wolf thing and saving the day. It's a lot of fun, it's exhilarating, but it doesn't actually reflect real life.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do here is talk about real life situations, and how it applies to us as men, so that we can negotiate this successfully, keep our balls, per se, and beyond. And look, we keep our balls by being honorable,
Right.
and being true to our cause, true to our purpose.
Yeah.
That's how we keep our balls. And when we lose our balls when we compromise. Okay? And we don't want to do that. And it's also much easier to lose your balls when you're doing it alone than it is when you have men in your life.
Okay.
Because your men will remind you that you're compromising.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And I think
dude.
You definitely need to get nudged every once.
Yeah, you got to get nudged.
If you choose the right pack, you have to find a pack that fits with you. That can be effective for you and move you in the right direction, right?
That's brilliant. Yes, actually, the selection of the men that you have in your life are a critical choice, very critical choice. You don't want to, like, one of the ways men select men is, rather than having you selecting the men, you just find yourself in a position where you're in a circle and like a fraternity.
Right.
You go to college, you say, oh, this is a great fraternity. So you pledge it, you get in, and now they become your friends, your men. But they don't necessarily have the qualities that you would always choose if you were selecting them one at a time, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying don't get in a fraternity, because I belonged and pledged a fraternity in college. But when it comes to after you get out of college, and you can still maintain those friendships, there's nothing wrong with that. But you want to start selecting men who hold you accountable, and men that won't sell you out. And the problem with friendships is that they're prone to selling out each other. And because you don't want to cross a line with a man where he might get upset and mad and then end the friendship.
Yeah.
So it's the I like the Monty Python version of it. It's the nod, wink, wink kind of deal, right? So it's or the secret handshake, or the secret nod or something. It's like it just says, look, I won't sell you out if you don't sell me out.
Yeah.
And pack animals can't afford to sell each other out, because if they do, it creates a situation for the pack to be taken down. It creates a weak point.
Right. And I think that if the pack has a common goal,
yes,
they can all work together for it and be a lot more effective as a group than each one of them would be individually.
So, and again, in choosing the men that you have in your life, they don't have to have the same purpose. But if you're, look, I'm a big proponent of being on men's teams, but not for hanging out. And I don't mean teams like bowling or tennis or whatever, sports, football, baseball. Those are great too, by the way. But again, a different purpose, a different type of relationship. So when I talk about being on a men's team, it has a purpose of upholding standards, maybe making a difference in the world. And in the process, you also have a purpose of taking care of each other.
Yeah.
Something that we don't really think about right now, which is caring about men, caring about our place in life, caring about our status in our culture, which has been diminishing for quite some time. right? I mean, the whole idea of toxic masculinity. No, there's really no such thing. There's just men behaving badly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
that macho
masculinity
thing, right?
is actually a necessary and highly positive and extremely needed. But when it's abused, then it becomes toxic. I mean, it's when men don't behave with honor and trust and a certain level of moral aptitude.
Okay.
All right. It's and again, a lot of what we've talked about in the past podcasts have dealt with some of this. When we talked about character, leadership, and all of those qualities, these are things that we do to develop ourselves. But the beautiful thing about being a pack animal is that when you've found your pack, when you found a circle of men, you selected them and that you trust, because that's really the you don't always trust the men in your fraternity. You probably shouldn't. maybe one or two, you get close to. I understand that there may be lifelong bonds created and those kinds of things, but that doesn't mean you trust every single man in your fraternity, because you shouldn't, and you should never actually trust a man until that you know that you can.
Okay.
Until you know that you can trust them, you don't want to give them your trust. And also when it comes to all of those relationships, because again, just like in the world, trust is the foundation of all relationships.
But you have to earn trust.
Well,
or is trust automatically given and then you can lose it? Well,
no, I wouldn't do either one of those. What I would do is find out, again, what you can trust about someone.
What you can trust. So each person has different things and different
you can
qualities.
trust. Like you wouldn't have a plumber come over and wire your house. All right, you would have them come over and do the plumbing.
Yeah.
Right. You wouldn't have the electrician come over and re-roof your house. You would have a roofer do it.
Right.
All right. So you trust your roofer to roof your house. You trust your electrician to do the electrical wiring. Each of these things you know what you can that you can trust about that person.
Yeah.
And so with men. It's really no different. You just want to find out what you can trust about him, and before you embrace that man and give him all of your trust. In other words, trust at a level that when he says duck, you duck and you don't ask questions first, right? Because usually, these days the way that men hold trust, they just give it and take it, randomly and based on again something as crazy as how they feel, which is nuts actually, but. Maybe we'll do that as a podcast one of these days too. Talk about that one, but knowing that that this man is always going to have your back.
Yeah.
So when you're in a pack, you know that every member of the pack would take a bullet for you, and you would take a bullet for them. That's a level of trust that's beyond wiring your house. All right, you wouldn't let them come over and babysit your kids, right? I mean, it's, you know what I'm saying? You just don't throw trust out there and hope it sticks. It's not a very.
You don't give anybody a general trust.
No, you don't.
Specific
No, you don't.
things.
It's not. It's a crazy way to go through life. People talk about I'll trust you until I know I can't. That's nuts, because you're almost for sure going to get screwed.
Okay.
So no, you go cautiously and you find out what you can trust about someone. And when it comes to developing your pack, again, you make sure that you know that you can trust them, and then when you do, you don't take it back.
Okay. Right.
That's when you don't take it back.
Okay.
All right, and know that at some point it's going to get violated. It always does. Hopefully not badly, but that's just how men kind of are. And the longer you are a member of that pack, the greater the odds are that the trust is going to get violated. But here's the beautiful thing about trust. All right. I can say I trust you. What does that mean?
It's pretty generic.
Yeah, and it doesn't really mean much, does it? Until it gets tested.
Yeah, okay.
like like car insurance. Car insurance, you buy car insurance and you put the policy over there and you don't even think about it again, right?
Right.
You paid your premium and you got car insurance, right?
Until
until you need it. And trust is the same way. I can just say I trust you, but until a situation comes up that tests that trust, you don't know how true it is, or how valuable it is, or how much it's worth. So you know that when a man throws himself in front of a bullet to save your life, that's the only time that you really, when something happens, right? Whether the trust really was warranted. So until it gets violated, it doesn't really mean much. It's just words. But that does not mean that you shouldn't be very careful about how you select the men that you trust to be part of your pack. Okay. Once you do, you do.
Yeah.
And unless they do something really heinous, like really seriously heinous, and where they cross a line that you just can't go back.
Yeah.
You just can't trust them again. But those situations are extremely rare. Hopefully you will never have that happen in your lifetime.
Okay.
I've actually had that happen a couple of times. And it was terrible. It was an awful thing.
So let me summarize real quick. So being in a pack is definitely better than being alone.
Oh yeah.
And
being in a pack, it's not only better, it's the only way to go.
The only way to go.
It's the only, if you want to live a really powerful, productive life, if you want to really walk a truly powerful, masculine, fulfilling life, then you walk it with your men.
Mm-hmm.
You walk it with your pack.
Yeah.
And it's the only, you can't do it alone. I mean, look at all of the men that have tried to do it alone, and what the end of their life looks like, and how usually very sad and miserable it is, right?
Yeah.
So we are social creatures. Even men are social creatures. I mean, we like to think that we've got this handled, but the truth is that we've got it handled way better when we have men. And it doesn't mean that we have to have them in our presence 100% of the time. In fact, I would imagine that 90% of the time you are doing things alone. Mm-hmm. But you always know, even when you're doing it alone, that you've got those men that are there, that are behind you. You can feel them.
Yeah.
They just don't have to be there present at the time. And look, you're going to make decisions, and sometimes you're going to make bad ones, and your pack will help you through the bad decisions.
And the good.
And the good ones too. Yeah, they will help celebrate the good ones with you.
Yeah.
Right? And you will celebrate their good ones with them as well.
Right.
And again, they will, give you that freaking nudge.
Yeah.
When you're being an asshole.
Right.
And we do have a tendency to be assholes pretty regularly. So, we might get nudged a lot.
Okay.
There you go. But I mean, again, if you look at Alaskan Huskies pulling a sled, they have a leader. By the way, they're almost always going to be a leader in a pack.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to. Otherwise, this doesn't have any direction.
Right.
And even if all of the men in the pack are leaders, if they're good leaders, they know that there needs to be a leader. And you can change leaders, but for a period of time, this man's the leader, and then another man takes over, and whatever. But you still have to have somebody at the front of the pack pulling the sled. But I don't know whether you've read anything about the races and Huskies and pulling sleds.
I've seen a couple of movies.
You watched the movies, all right. Well, I mean, it actually it shows up in the movies. All of the dogs push each other. They all have a dynamic, and they all find their place within the pack. Mm-hmm. and they nip at each other. The one that needs to be nipped at, they nip at them.
Yeah.
They bark at each other. They nudge each other. They also protect each other very strongly. They have great loyalty, right? So they all take on their position, their job, what they do well. Some of there's the ones that are really good at the back, right in front of the sled. There's the one that's really good at the front. The two that go behind the one in the front, the lead dog, tend to be the ones that are always pushing him and championing him and reminding him that he's the lead dog and that to go for it, right? Okay. So they all have their personalities that fit to somewhere within that whole chain, so to speak. And we're no different. We all have our strengths, we have our weaknesses, and you have to find that in the pack too with your men. Who does what well?
Yeah.
And let them do what they do well. Good leaders, if you end up being chosen as the leader, you want to find out what all of the strengths and weaknesses are of all of the men in your pack. Right? And also let them know what your strengths and weaknesses are as well.
Okay.
It's one of the things that they're saying these days is they want men to be more vulnerable. And then when they don't want us to be vulnerable, because what they really want us is to be strong.
I think women say that.
Yeah, well, I've heard men say it too, actually, and not too long ago. And I'm like, what? Yeah. What are you thinking? Why would you want to be vulnerable? Because when we're vulnerable, we get taken advantage of. Some other man comes along and takes our place. So being vulnerable is a really weird concept because you're weak and vulnerable when you're vulnerable. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't. There isn't a time and a place.
Yeah.
But that's a different discussion.
Okay.
All right. But that only happens within your pack, so that the men in your pack know where you are vulnerable. They know who you really are, so that they can trust you. Because one of the experiences that I've had personally over the years, and I mean like 40, 50 years now, is that when I don't know a man's weakness, I have a hard time trusting him.
Okay.
And if he's not willing to show me those places where he is doubt and fear and weakness, then I really have a hard time going into battle with him and protecting him, because I just don't know whether I can trust him. I don't know whether I can trust him to have my back in a situation that might come up, right?
Okay.
So there is a time, but generally speaking, when the women are telling us they want us to be vulnerable, I don't think they mean it. I don't. I think they mean it, but I don't think they really mean it.
Okay. So it's good to curate your pack.
I know you're going to get letters. You're going to write letters all about that, and that's fine. Write lots of. Yeah. Any women out there go, no, I really want my men to be vulnerable. No, you really don't.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that. We'll definitely get into that if you want to.
So it's better to you said. Okay, wait.
It's the only way to go.
It's the only way to go. It's the only way to go to be in a pack.
Yeah.
But you want to curate your pack. You want to.
Yeah. You don't just randomly pick a bunch of men. You know,
and each man has their specialty, and there is a leader, but the leader can rotate.
Sure.
Depending on.
You always have to have a leader. You always have to have men. Men are hierarchical.
Okay. Cool.
Men are naturally hierarchical, and the reason that we're hierarchical is that it's more productive, and we're more successful running a hierarchy when it comes to even in the military. They have chains of command and stuff like that, and positions and all that stuff.
Yeah.
If it didn't work, if it wasn't the best way to do it, they'd do it another way.
Right.
but they do it that way because it is the best way to do it.
I get it.
And you get information from the top down and from the bottom up, and everyone knows their place, and they have someone to answer to, and so but that is all based on a way of men being together for tens of thousands of years. We learned a long time ago that we needed to be hierarchical in order to be able to be exponentially more powerful. Men working together as a team, as a pack, aren't the sum of their parts. The power isn't the sum of each individual added together. It's actually an exponential. It's a multiplier. So if you've got 10 men, their power isn't 10. Their power is 100 or 1,000.
Yeah.
Okay. So when they work together, if they stop working together well, then that number comes down like a lot.
Yeah.
All right.
When
there's a breakdown,
one
man can, one weak link can break the chain, really. Yeah. And we've learned this. I mean, over thousands and thousands of years, we have learned that what works and what doesn't work, and we know, and so the whole hierarchical thing is natural for us. Okay. Well, I mean, but you can't, if you're lone wolfing, there is no hierarchy. There is no chain of command. There is nobody to rely on. And if you fall, you're screwed.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Got it.
Okay. So, any other questions about pack or lone wolf? It's always going to be pack.
Pack wolf. Got it. All right. So, new question.
Yep.
How important is a man's relationship to his father?
Wow. So this is a subject we could probably talk about for a week or two.
Try to condense it for now.
We'll do a short version of this. Regardless of your father being present growing up or not, whether he wasn't around at all, passed away, left, divorce, or whether he was what you thought a good father or what you thought was a bad father, all of that taken together, and there is no more significant masculine relationship you will ever have. Okay, it is the most significant because it sets a lot of precedent in our behavior, where in some cases we want to be just like him. And then there are those things that we don't want to be like him at all. Fathers that weren't around may be teaching us that we shouldn't be like that. Mm-hmm. That we don't want to be like our father, not around for our children. Because we all know that it's better for the children for the father to be around. Right. But your father may have taught you that lesson by not being around. And again, it's significant.
Yeah. Let me give you this real quick.
Okay.
What popped into my head was
this is a can of worms. You know that, right?
Okay, but look. Okay. Shel Silverstein, he's an artist and a poet, and he wrote a song that Bob Dylan sang.
Right.
Called "A Boy Named Sue." Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
So, a boy named Sue. This boy grows up with this girl's name.
Yes, I know. And eventually sung by Johnny Cash, which was actually a bigger hit. So,
okay, yes, okay. So then, it was Johnny Cash was the one I heard. I know Bob Dylan sang it also.
Of course, but
so Johnny Cash
became Johnny Cash really made it a big hit.
Right, but in the song, the boy grows up without his father.
Okay.
He grows up bullied. He finally meets his father later in life.
Right.
And his boy is mad at the father. Why did you name me Sue? right? And then, the father says something like, well,
I wanted you to be strong.
Yeah,
I wanted you to be independent. I wanted you to be able to get up and fight back. And I wanted you to be tough and all of these things.
Right.
And it was a choice that I made that, and look, I don't think in reality that any father makes the choice that particular way.
Right.
Okay.
It's an exaggeration.
It is, and it's a song. But at the same time, the father looking back as a hindsight, as to whatever it is your father did, you can either let it be a lesson and make you stronger, or you can be angry and let it make you weaker.
Right.
And so you either can, and even the you asshole, I'll show you, is actually a good thing, because when you go out to prove yourself to your father, whether he was a good father or not, you are actually doing things to make yourself a better man.
Right.
And improving your character and improving your ability to negotiate life and be self-sufficient and be self-reliant and all of those things. So yeah, I think it was the song is a great song, and I think in some ways, if it was reality, it's a little bit of a cop-out on the father's part to say, well, I left you and it was to make you all of these better things. Right. Honestly, I'd punch him out personally. I mean, probably hit him and then say, thank you, Dad, for making me a better man. Right. But you're still an asshole.
Right. Because he grew up hard.
Yeah.
But then also at the same time, he was shaped by his father, by the absence and by the way the decisions that his father made.
So everything shapes us.
So is a boy and his father and a man and his father, those are two totally different relationships.
Completely different relationships.
So a man and his father now. A man in his relationship with his father.
He's still, the thing is that it's still, there's certain dynamics that don't change, even when you become a man. You get to stand together as men. Mm-hmm. You get to have a relationship with your father when you really have, come into your own. You made yourself successful, done the things that you needed to do to be able to stand on your own 2 feet.
Yeah.
Which is all fathers want.
Yeah.
Even the worst fathers want their sons to have a great life. Even the worst ones, even the ones that abandon their children, they hope that you will grow up to be a good man and have a great life. And so there are, as a child, you're going to make decisions that aren't necessarily rational about your father. But when you become a man, you can't indulge yourself like that. You can't be emotional and irrational about your relationship with your father. So it's time where you realize that even with all of the things that he taught you not to do, if you got the lesson, it was a benefit.
Yeah.
And all you can do is be grateful.
I learned a lot from my father. Life in general, manhood, fatherhood.
Yeah.
And at the same time, when I look at myself dealing with my older sons now, it's definitely a different dynamic than it was when they were younger, but I appreciate it. I think that
you're still the dad, though. See, and you will always be in a way. There's a dynamic where you're always the father, even when they've made something of themselves and proven themselves. You're proud of them, and you can have conversations with them in a different way, because you're not. See, there's a couple of mistakes in the world, and there's a number of different ways to learn about this stuff, but fathers these days try to be friends with their kids, and it's a mistake, I think, and they continue to try to parent long past the time for parenting.
Yeah.
You know, when they're in their 20s and 30s, it's like you can't. They gotta learn their lessons their own way at that point. There's nothing you can do. You gotta let them go do what they're gonna do.
At that point, the father may be an advisor.
Maybe advice, a guide, a coach, or something, but you can't be a parent anymore.
Is a father part of a man's pack?
I have known men who had their fathers in their pack. I have. I don't know whether I would want my dad in my own pack.
I don't think I would.
You know, I again think that it might cross some lines that you don't want to cross with your dad. Right. But
because when you have to be the leader of the pack, is he going to step back?
Exactly. Well, like I said, it presents itself with some challenges, definitely, and some dynamic shifts. Not impossible. I can't imagine that it would be something that you couldn't do. Whether you want to or should do, that's a completely different question and situation. But if it happens, look, if you're in a village, a small, like when we were hunter-gatherers, and you had small, bands or villages or whatever, the father and the son would be in the same pack. All of his children would be. All of his male children would be in their pack with the men. And so I think that honoring age and wisdom and accomplishment. So the father's always going to be ahead. And as a son, as part of the pack, you find your place in, again, remember we talked about hierarchy?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to find yourself in the hierarchy, but your father's always going to be where you, wherever it is, your father's always going to be above, right? Okay. It's always going to be, that's the dynamic. And you can't get around it. You can't get around it. And the only tragedy is if the son dies before the father. That's a really tough thing and not part of the natural order of things. That the father wants the son or sons to take over from him and to carry things on and carry on the legacy.
What about, okay, so thank you for that. There's times when you see the father and the son in the same business, where like the son is going to take over the father's business, or the father changes the business to father and son's plumbing or something like that, right? And then you have the other side of that where you have the fathers that say, I don't want my son to be anything like me. I don't want him to do what I did. I don't want him to go and follow my path at all. So you have different dynamics of the father and son relationship in that regard, right?
Yeah. So you want me to talk about that?
Yeah, go.
Oh, okay. Well, I think it's a mistake on a father's part to control anything about what direction his son goes in life.
Okay.
I think that
if they follow him or not.
Yeah, they'll either follow him or they won't. But you can't expect them to, and you can't have expectations as a parent. The more it's the same thing in relationships. The more expectations that you have. We talked about this in relationships, right? How damaging the expectations can be, and it's incredibly difficult for children to be laden with parental expectations. Now, I mean, it doesn't mean that you don't have boundaries. Boundaries are different. They're not expectations. You say, look, this is the boundary you can't cross. And if you cross, there's going to be, price to pay, right? So, but expectations are when we want them to be who we want them to be instead of who they are. Mm-hmm. And it's, to me, it goes against life because we're all individuals. Now, I'll give you an example. I've done seminars with rooms full of a lot of people, right? And I've done stuff where most everyone in the room was a parent. and I asked them if there was anyone whose kids are growing up to be who they want them to be.
99% of the time.
Nobody's hands went up.
Yeah.
All right. So the truth is that we're all born individuals.
Yeah.
And yes, we do get a lot from our parents, behavior-wise, sometimes morality and ways of being, mannerisms, all of that kind of stuff. But ultimately, we're still individuals. We're born individuals, and one of the ways that it shows up is that each individual will respond differently. Like when you have brothers, I have 3 younger brothers, and all 3 of us from the same 2 parents are very different. We're just different people. And yet we got a lot of the same stuff from the same 2 people, but how we interpreted that stuff and how we reacted to it or incorporated it or rejected it, it's all based on an individual deal. So you can't expect your children to be anything but who they are. And if they want to follow on the father's footsteps, that's fine. If they don't, more often they don't than they do. But my father actually had a business that he said, look, I'll set you up in the work that he was in, right? He had and said, look, when you graduate from college, if you want, I'll set you up and you can go into business and work with me and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, no fucking way, until hell freezes over, right?
Okay.
We're not doing that. That's not my path.
Okay.
So I know it would have pleased him if I had done that, but we're not here to please our parents.
Okay. Yeah.
And I will tell you right now, parents who expect to be pleased by their children, again, are putting on a very, very heavy level of expectations on their kids.
Okay.
You have to make me happy by how you are by your life choices. But kids grow up and they make their own life choices, and you got to let them.
So, a man, you have 2 men.
You don't have to like it, but you got to let them anyway.
All right, 2 men. One is married.
Okay.
One is a bachelor.
Mm-hmm.
They each have a relationship with their father.
Okay.
Let's say these 2 men are brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is the importance of a father's relationship on a man, right? We're talking about a man to his father.
Mm-hmm.
How is it different with the married man versus the bachelor?
Well, again, it's really difficult to talk about a hypothetical situation, but maybe you have somebody in mind.
Okay.
The father's relationship with the 2 sons is the same. They're both his kids.
Yes. From a father's perspective.
From a father's perspective, the choice to be a bachelor is actually a much more natural choice. We although we're human beings are social organisms, but men tend to be relationship averse to a degree.
Okay.
We're not very socially acceptable, so to speak. We like bucking the system. That's where that whole lone wolf thing, kind of comes out. And so, but it requires a lot of a man to be married, and a lot of sacrifice on his part of who he is to be a good husband and father.
Mm-hmm.
And the single son, he gets to do whatever the fuck he wants to do. All right. Now, it doesn't mean that who his father was growing up didn't influence him strongly in many ways. But a lot of the lessons that the son that's married got from the father are immediately applicable into his marriage. So I tell men all of the time, the best way to be a good father is to be a good husband.
Okay.
Because your children learn what being a good husband looks like. Now, this kid right here, this one learned that he didn't want to do the things that it takes to be married and have kids.
Okay.
So now he's chosen a single life, right?
Yeah.
And this one learned that the kind of man he is willing to make those sacrifices for the commitments required to be a good father and a husband.
So do you think that a man who is married has a closer relationship with his father than a man who is not married?
Nope, not one bit. There shouldn't be any difference as far as closeness. Okay. Now, there are...
Priorities change, though.
Priorities change for the sons, but not the father, because...
Exactly.
But the father isn't going to be anything but who he is. I also think that, one of the things that I really appreciated about my parents is that they, even though I don't think my mom did a great job of it, but they tried. She tried. Is they really made a concerted effort not to play favorites. And that's, you got to give them a lot of credit for that.
Okay.
All right. Do you do it perfect? No, because we're human beings, and we relationships are relationships, and remember what I said earlier about you don't have to like your kids' choices, right? But you don't stop loving them and caring about them because they made choices that you don't necessarily like.
Okay. Yeah. As long as you respect the person.
Well, see, again, respect. You cannot, when you put expectations, you take away respect.
Okay.
So you must, as a parent, respect your children. It's how they learn respect. If you don't respect them, they have a hard time learning it. They may have to learn it from someone else or outside of when they get older. Remember that a lot of the basic life skills are learned before we're 10.
Okay.
In fact, many of them, they say, are learned by the time you're 3 or 4. That the patterns are already ingrained and imprinted on your brain. That means that anything that's got to change is a lifelong battle, to change that imprint, and it's no so easy. It's a lot more work, right?
Yeah.
So, but respect is something that, again, being a good husband means you respect your wife.
Yeah.
And teaching children how to love is showing them how to love your wife and how to love your kids without expectation, right? And giving them the respect of being individuals, and of course, you don't let them make all of their own decisions, because children are not capable of doing that. You don't want to give them more than what they can handle, but you definitely, as they get older and older, you give them more trust. You give them an opportunity to make more of their own decisions and more of their own mistakes. And they are going to make mistakes, and they are going to get hurt, and you just hope they don't get hurt too badly, right?
Yeah.
But as a father, that shouldn't change for any of your children, boys or girls.
Right.
Your love and your care for them. You may like one more than the other, but you wouldn't want to, disrespect the others by playing favorites and all of that kind of stuff. And that takes work. That's skill. That's parenting skill. It's a parenting craft. Craft art. I've known people that made parenting a total artwork, in a way, of being good parents. Yeah. And still, it doesn't guarantee anything, because everyone's an individual, and you just do your best and hope for the best. Okay. That's all you can do. Yeah. Right? And you can't do it perfect. You can't be a perfect father. let me tell you what a perfect father is. Here's a perfect father. All right. Perfect father has a ton of shit that you think he did wrong and a ton of shit you think he did right. And you blame him for all the things you thought that he should have done that he didn't, and all the things that he did do that you thought he shouldn't. And that's a perfect father, because all of those things will provide the opportunity to get the lessons that you need to grow up.
Okay. I actually agree with what you just said. 100%.
Good. I mean, because there's no way to, in reality, be a perfect parent. There's no way to do it. You just do your best and hope that the kids don't die.
Yeah.
I think that I know it's really morose, but really the truth is you only have, there's only one actual responsibility as a parent. Yeah, get them from birth to out of the house alive. That's it. And what happens in between, you could maybe do
out of the house. Though.
Well, that's true. Yeah, but that's not required. That's the only thing that's actually required is that you keep them alive from here to here.
That's bare minimum.
That's the bare minimum, but but you keep them alive, and that's really all you owe them.
Okay.
Just like they don't owe making you happy. They don't owe making you happy. And the only thing that, if you're going to have children, the most basic requirement and commitment that you have is to keep them alive. Now, can you do better than that? I sure as hell hope so. Yeah. And I hope that parents want to do better than that.
Yeah.
And the best way to get them from here to here, we're looking at this, right from these two places, is not about controlling them to be who you want them to be.
Okay.
That will not work. Okay? That's just control and kills everything. It's disrespectful. It puts too many expectations on them. And almost always they will rebel completely and totally in some way or another.
Yeah.
Sometimes catastrophically. So the way that you do a good job, not a perfect job, a good job, is how you conduct yourself from here to here.
Okay. And just be the example.
As a man, you've got to be the best man you can possibly be.
Yeah.
You've got to be the best husband that you can possibly be. You try to be the best father that you can possibly be, which is respect your children and trust them and love them unconditionally, and be an example for them.
You're not going to be perfect, but you're going to be an example. Some of the example is what you should do, and some of the example is what you shouldn't do.
Right. And look, there's the phrase that it takes a village to raise a child. So the responsibility doesn't necessarily fall solely on the parents' heads. Your ability to bring in the village to help raise your children, because it makes them more rounded, it gives them greater experiences, it gives them other perspectives and views, and also, there's a point where they just stop listening to the parent anyway, right?
But they might take the advice of
exactly. They'll continue to listen to that uncle or a coworker of the father or the mother, and
maybe
the grandparents,
maybe somebody in the father's pack,
cousins. There's men in your pack.
Yeah.
Another good reason to have a pack, right? Especially when you're a father, is to not only to kind of kick your butt and keep you in line as a father, but also that your children. I would hope that you would want. If you trust the men in your pack, wouldn't you want your children to know them and trust them too?
Right.
And so that they have yet another avenue of learning and experience.
Okay.
Good.
Great. Thank you. Next question.
Uh-oh.
I'm having a good time with this.
Okay. I didn't know whether we'd be able to get through the father-son thing. I mean, without getting into some real. I mean, I just want to say that what we just talked about is scratching the surface.
Okay. No. I get that.
Just scratching the surface. Now I think that there were some nuggets in there.
Yeah.
That you fathers that are listening, I hope that you wrote some shit down and took some notes, and
they can always just scroll back
or whatever you got to do. But you definitely. I hope that with some of those nuggets, especially the things around respect and not controlling and not having expectations, things like that.
All right, now I'm going to flip.
Okay, good. Can we pause for a second?
Okay.
Pause. 3, 2.
All right, we're back.
Okay.
I have a new question.
Okay.
Similar but new question. Let's talk about a man's relationship with his mother. Now, here's why I bring all this up.
This is where we're going to get some real letters.
Yeah. But the reason why I bring this up is because, in the Bible, where it's in Corinthians, and he talks about a man must leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
It's about where I'm going with this is how important it is for a man first of all to have a relationship with his father, have a relationship with his mother, and then when he is married, how that relationship changes. The father and mother are still his father and mother, but the priorities then change over to his.
Okay.
So let's talk about a man and his mother before he's married and after he's married, or the difference between a boy and his mother and a man and his mother.
I think that's the more specific question.
A boy and his mother and a man and his mother? Okay,
well,
let's go ahead.
All right. Firstly, again, I just want to say that respect is incredibly important. Always respect your parents, your father and your mother. One of the things you said earlier about a passage in the Bible about leaving your parents, that's true, and it's not just about Bible stuff. It's anthropologically necessary, historically necessary to in order to have a good marriage. You can't be cleaving to your mom. Women do not really want mama's boys, and the thing is that our father's job is so different than our mother's job. And our mother is present with us growing up way more than our father is. Because our father, most of the time, has, if both parents stay together throughout childhood, then they work together, but in different ways. Now, it's again like a team. The mother has her strengths, the father has his strengths, and they bring both of their strengths together to be good parents. Father without the mother is not as good a parent as together, and vice versa. And single parents are really. And look, I don't have to get into the whole political thing about it. Psychology the field of psychology has been studying this for a long time, and the results are overwhelming that single parenting is not good for children. Never has been, never will be. Right? That children need the perspective of multiple parents. And when I say multiple parents, generally speaking, it's two. But again, we talked earlier about community being part of rearing a child. So children just even isolated with two parents it's not as healthy. You want two good parents who have a good relationship with each other, and a community that they have a good relationship with the community, and so on and so forth. So, but you have to, our relationship with our father is very specific because and again, this is part of the can of worms I didn't want to get into. But there's a whole process that from the time we're born until we become a man and able to stand on our own as a man, that we have to complete, that prepares our father to go to the next phase in his life, right? We prepare him for that final phase of his life, right? So he doesn't have to worry about us.
But mothers
get us through childhood, and then we have to let go. And if we stay emotionally connected to our mother, then we cannot properly connect with our wife. Our mother's in the way. And all you women out there will say, yeah, you don't want a man who lives with his mother, right? In fact, I think there's some books written about it, actually. In fact, there was a book back in the 70s that says, never marry a man who lives with his mother. Okay, so separating yourself from your mother is critical. And it doesn't mean that you can't still be a good son and respectful of what your mother gave you, but at the same time, and we're just talking about boys right now, right?
Boys.
Okay, because girls are different.
No, we're not.
And their relationship with their mothers are a wholly different deal. Okay,
let's talk about boys and men.
Yeah,
and mothers.
Boys have a very special relationship with their mothers, and I didn't. I mean, I knew it. I knew that the relationship was different. Always knew it, but I never knew the impact of that relationship until my mother died. And it hit me, and it was just a year ago, right? So it's not been that long. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. Whereas when my father passed away, I was complete with him. There wasn't anything I needed to say. In fact, I don't think there was anything I needed to say to my mother either, but oh my God, it was the whole thing was completely different emotionally for me. And so I have grieved my mother's passing much longer, and I'm surprisingly, I mean, it's come out of the blue from time to time where I was like, it just without warning, it hit me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there is a connection a boy has with his mom, but when he becomes an adult, he really has to sever that connection so that he can bring himself fully to a relationship with a woman.
Okay.
Because until he does, it's she gets in the way. There's just an emotional barrier that gets in the way of being able to give yourself to a woman and be committed and have an intimate connection and bond with her.
Okay. But does a man, how you say a man should separate from his mother, does he separate from his father the same way?
No. In fact, it's I don't know whether you ever actually separate from your father. It's just it's a really peculiar dynamic.
Yeah.
Right? Like I said, it's there is no masculine relationship that has more of an impact on your life than your father.
Yeah.
And even after you have become successful and maybe got married and had kids, or not, I mean, but still become your own man.
Yeah.
You've grown up and you become your own man, and your father gets that. Your father understands that. Your father is, and he does, right? He understands. Whether you get married or not, he still gets where you're coming from.
Okay.
Because he's a man.
Right.
Your mother doesn't. Never will. But she also knows you like no other woman you will ever know.
Including your wife.
Including your wife.
Because
nobody
she knows
will
how
know
you
because she wiped your ass and changed your diapers, and she knows every button to push. She knows what makes you crazy,
Okay.
and she knows how to control you like no woman has ever known.
Okay.
Right? And so, and often we marry women like our mothers because we're so familiar with that. And when we marry women that control, or at least try to control us the same way our mother does, because we pick them because it feels familiar, right? Or we pick them because it's completely different, but or a combination of the two. But in the end, you can't continue to have that emotional bond with your mother and expect to have a good relationship with your wife, okay, or with women in general, because it gets in the way.
Okay.
It gets in the way. I have a definition, by the way. If you think you're not a mama's boy, then you might want to think again, because we're all at one point in our lives mama's boys, and most of us hopefully grow out of it.
Right.
We all should grow out of it, but some men have really struggled growing out of it. A friend of mine gave me a definition about 30 years ago about being a mama's boy, and his definition was that it's when you become a mama's boy at the point that you start believing what your mother says about your father.
Okay.
And so her interpretation of life becomes the leading interpretation, right?
Yeah.
That's what that's about. So when her interpretation of you, your father, life in general, masculinity in general, how to be, one of the things we're doing this podcast for is so that you aren't listening to women telling you how to be men. All right, and they're happy to do that.
I love that.
They're absolutely delighted to be able to tell you exactly how you should be.
Yeah.
And that's probably not, if we get to the mentorship question, all right, that's not where you want to get mentored on being a man, because women don't really understand what it is to be a man any more than we understand what it means to be a woman.
Right.
They don't come to us and ask us how to be a good woman, right? I mean, that would be nuts, and they know it's nuts, but they also are very willing to let us know how we should actually be.
Okay.
So we're doing this podcast to maybe fill in some gaps anyway, and men having a place to go to where we're just talking about being men from our own masculine standpoint, and that we do understand, and your father does understand, your mother does not, but she has a great influence on her children and her boys, and if a woman has boys, and she will be a huge influence on how the kind of men that they grow up to be, and you can place all kinds of opinions on that, but it matters not. The opinions do not matter.
Okay.
What at some point matters is when you start to choose, given all the information and experience that you have, what kind of man you want to become. And it has no bearing anymore on your mother.
Right. Okay.
She cannot be the influencer on that. And
you can't let her pull the strings and push the buttons.
Well, again, as long as she's still pulling strings and pushing buttons, then you're still a mama's boy. You're still under her influence and holding on to her apron strings. And and look,
you love her, but you love her from a distance, right?
Good women don't want men like that. They want men that are strong, that are that they can lean on. Because as long as you're still leaning on your mother, she can't lean on you.
Right.
And so you want to be able to be your own man, and strong and powerful. And look, with all that being said, that does not mean that you stop being a good son. Right? You can. It doesn't mean you stop loving your mom or respecting her. Right? It may mean that you don't talk to her as much. Right? Because a man that calls his mom every day, you start to go like, oh, dude, come on. It's like once a week, maybe. I don't know. Maybe more often. I don't know. I'm not going to tell you how to do it, but I can tell you, if you're talking to your mom every day, you're still a mom's boy.
Okay.
Right? And if she doesn't like it, that's a sign that you're moving in the right direction.
Oh.
She's not going to like it when you start to break away. So she will react, and you can't let that manipulate you. You can't let that change your behavior. Because if you do, you're still continuing to be a mama's boy. You're still holding on to her.
Yeah.
And again, it's you can still be a good son and be a good man at the same time. But you can't be a good man and a good son when you're still holding on to your mom.
Okay.
So you got to let go.
Let go.
You got to let go. And I know women who have gotten divorces because their husbands couldn't let go. Right. And they didn't want to be married to be in a marriage with two women in it.
Yeah.
Which is what happens. Because if the man hasn't let go, his mother is in the marriage. And the wife is always battling for position, which she shouldn't have to be doing. Right? I mean, you make it hard for her to do what she must do and needs to do to be a good wife and to be a good mother. And she shouldn't be battling her mother-in-law for position in the marriage, right?
Yeah.
But it's not her job to get rid of your mother. It's your job to get rid of your mother, and move her out of the way.
Right.
And the last thing I want to say about this, and mothers are amazing. They're amazing. They're incredible, and they have more patience than most men will ever understand.
Okay.
In many ways, our mothers are saints for what they've had to do and deal with in raising us, and that warrants lifelong love and respect. Okay, it warrants lifelong love and respect, and so it as a grown man on your own, standing on your own, being your own man, you're still aware of that respect, and you can still give that love, and it will eventually help her get past the reaction that she will have when you pull away, because mothers want a mother. And they're good at it. They're really, really good at it. I mean, they're amazing at it. My best friend's wife is, we got 4 kids, and like 13 to 22. And I just watch her in amazement, just handling it all. She works, and she packs their lunches, and she, makes sure that they all get rides to whatever 4 kids and all these moving parts, and the oldest one's getting closer and closer to moving out, and he's got his job, but she still packs a lunch for him, and I'm like, well, maybe you shouldn't do that. He's a grown man,
right?
But she wants to be a mom, and that's what moms do. They're what they're great at is being moms. And so just know that when you do break away, she's going to react.
Yeah.
And it'll hurt her a little bit, and she'll get over it, right? And then she'll double up efforts on the next one down. They'll do that, So, but that's okay.
Yeah.
You'll be able to help pull that one out too. It's like you'll have to go say, "Hey, bro, it's time to, cut it with mom,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, but yes, but you got to do it. You have to do it, and know that it's going to be a little painful for her, and it's okay. It's part of life.
Okay.
It's definitely part of the natural process.
There you go. All right, hey guys, I appreciate you guys watching.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank for the. I mean, literally, we're now getting thousands of hits with especially our shorts. We're getting thousands.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in the thousands, so it's fantastic. And maybe we'll start having some products for you to buy, so we can actually make some money off of this. But we're not here to make money. Really, we're not.
We are men helping men to become better men.
Yeah, that's it. That's what we're doing, and we're here. We're honored to be of service.
Yeah. And
hopefully that you get some value. So thank you for watching, and go watch the full podcasts.
Yeah.
Because we need hits on that one too. Go do that.
Do that.
Yeah, for sure.
So we are the Bad Pennies.
We are the Bad Pennies,
and we will be back.
We will be back.